I love hip-hop. It's part of my life. I've met so many artists, listened to so many songs, seen tons of graffitis and countless breakdance shows. I've seen it all. But this is special to me. I'm Niko Backspin, and I'm a hip-hop journalist. I'm road tripping in a Porsche Taycan around the US, the birthplace of hip-hop. I'm visiting Los Angeles, Atlanta, and New York City. Throughout my journey, I'm going to meet loads of people. Legendary MCs, Netflix stars, graffiti artists, breakdancers, great DJs, a fashion designer, and people who have worked with some of the greatest names in hip-hop, like Eminem, Tupac, and many more. I'm gonna meet some people who haven't always had it easy. But this is how I hope to learn more about the healing power of this art form. Speaking with various people, a hip-hop therapist, and a bunch of people who love hip-hop as much as I do. I want to know what hip-hop means to each of them, because all of them have something in common, a pioneering spirit, a different take on how the world should be, and the courage to go after their dreams. I'm kicking this trip off in the west side of Los Angeles. Here, I'm going to meet Chaz, an absolute street art legend. He started tagging walls more than 50 years ago, and it all began with a scar. Hey.
Yeah.
That's weird. But that's the beginning of your story, right?
Yeah. I am the longest writing, oldest graffiti writer in the world. My history starts from 1969, when I first started tagging. But I used to see graffiti when I was smaller, when I was 10 years old. There was always a tradition of graffiti here in Los Angeles since the 1940s, since World War II. And it united. We had our own particular kind of letter styles, and it united our community. It was a Mexican-American, a Latino angle. And I've always admired that. And I always wanted to be one of those graffiti writers, you know. So in '69, I came up with my first tag, Señor Suerte. It was a combination of very Los Angeles, from the horror movies, Dia de los Muertos festival from Mexico with the skull. And then I was watching a lot of a Superfly and Shaft and all that. So I took that New York big Pimp Daddy hat and the fur collar, and I turned it into a Señor Suerte, which is Mr. Lucky. So I took the cigarette out and I crossed its fingers. And I go, luck. That became my symbol. Well, the gangs took my symbol and adopted it for themselves. The gangs here are called the Avenues, a long tradition. They've been around for a long time. But now they're in the prisons. But they adopted and started having my Señor Suerte tattooed on their necks, on the top of their heads. I have guys who has two of them right here on their necks. Then another guy came, also, he had it tattooed all in his belly. He was a fat guy, that. And then also Señor Suerte, they would put on their legs. And they would tell me, they go, if you have Señor Suerte tattooed on you, if you get shot, you won't die. So it became a protection symbol.
This is crazy.
Well, I told you, when people start believing in it, that's the real value of it. So it became more than graffiti. It became more than my symbol. You know what saved me?
Yeah.
Hip-hop. Hip-hop saved my ass, because when that started coming in the 80s and all that, came not only with the music, there are the four elements.
Yeah.
The dancing and the breaking and the graffiti and the whatnot. Hip-hop to me is a business. It's about music. And they always leave graffiti out. They'd always ask us to paint the backgrounds or an album cover, and they wouldn't pay us that much, But I knew that graffiti was important. Because it was a language, it was my language, it was my heart, it was my spirit. So I kept on going. In the meantime, the computer, they discovered the origins of graffiti. Who are the history makers? Yeah. That's where they found me. But that took about to 2000,
This is crazy.
From there on, I became slowly more popular and more famous. And then my prices came up.
This is the place where you're doing your art right now, right?
This is my studio, right?
This studio now.
Yes. So when I was about 16 years old, I said I wanted to learn more Spanish, and I asked my parents if I could go one summer down to Guadalajara, Mexico, just take sculpture and ceramics classes down there. So that was a big adventure. They put me on a train. I went down there, and I was supposed to meet a certain family and stay with them for 3 months, all by myself. And it was great. I met some beautiful artists, Mexican men, who have nothing. They gave me a gift. There was a part, they were drawing from skeletons. I said, "Where'd you guys get that?" They said, "Oh, we dug it up from the cemeteries,
oh, really?
The graveyards." And they would collect the skeletons and then draw the bones and all that, because they didn't have anything like that in their schools.
Okay.
So they gave me the skull. This is what they gave me as a gift. I knew his name, but since then I forgot it. But I started drawing him, and that gave me the idea of Señor Suerte. So from this skull, I designed this drawing. It has a bad tooth over here, and it's supposed to be this guy right here. But this, what started my whole career, was this skull. So this Señor Suerte is a living person. It comes from an experience. It's not just a drawing that I've put together from the New York experience or my Hollywood experience, but this is a true living person. That's where I design from, and that's where my heart comes from. And as you can see it here, I have here AVE, avenues. Avenue where I lived was Avenue 43. AVE 43. My name, Chaz, and then we always protect it. We always put a CS, con Safos. If you mess with this graffiti, I'm gonna mess with you. It's a threat.
Seeing your work and seeing how lucky you are about what you did in the past gives me also a good feeling that hip hop is connecting people.
It's not talking about the past. I'm still kicking ass. I still want to kick young butt. It makes me excited to still be a player, you know?
After talking to Chaz, it's time to meet someone else. I've got to be honest, I'm really excited about this next artist. Back in the day, I was a huge fan of his hip-hop group. They sold more than 20 million albums worldwide. Insane. Insane in the Brain, which also happens to be the title of their most popular hit single. Yeah, I'm talking about the musical mastermind of Cypress Hill, DJ Muggs. You know what?
Shannon.
Honestly, it's really a pleasure and an honor to meet you here, because the first Cypress Hill album was one of the reasons why I fell in love with the music.
Oh, hell yeah. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man.
And it was in the early 90s, and I was in Germany, and there were only a few guys who also fell in love with hip-hop, and it was sharing tapes. I didn't have that much money to buy every single CD or album, but then I got a tape, and there was Cypress Hill on it.
Your boy duplicated it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was how we did it, huh?
You know, honestly, the first one was very, very tough lyrics, and it was like, okay, this is different.
We didn't give a fuck. We just came into the game aggressive, doing what the fuck we want to do, with middle fingers up, you know what I'm saying? And just do what the fuck we want to do, and that's how we did it. Whatever we did on the block is what we talked about on the music, and then here's what we're doing. So it was almost like you get to come kick it with us through the records. We grew up with this. It was just in the streets. You know, when we was kids, there was people, we would just write on walls, like in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Graffiti was just on the walls, and kids was breakdancing, and the music was coming out of the radios in the parties, you know what I mean? So it was always there. It was always there. But I think when I heard the song Rapper's Delight,
yeah,
that's when I was like, oh, fuck, you know what I mean? And I caught the fever. And that's when I just started digging deeper into the music and just looking for everything. The thing about us was, back in those days, you had to be original.
Yeah.
Your music needed to be original. Your lyrics needed to be original. Your slang and the way you dressed. Otherwise, you was dismissed very quickly.
Yeah.
They called you a biter. You was whack. You wasn't going to get accepted into this culture. You know what I'm saying? So it was really important for us just to be super, super original in all aspects. Of course, you learn and you borrow, but you got to make it your own. So I might borrow from 10 different groups that inspired me, then it goes through my filter and it spits back out like this, you know. So that was something that was very, very big for us. And our shit was so ahead, like I'd never heard nothing like it. So you like, see what happens, you know what I mean? I thought if I would have sold 150,000 records at that time and all my peers would have liked me, I was cool. Because everybody that I liked was doing that. It was more important for the culture and the homies to respect than it was for me to get rich. You know, I didn't know that I was going to be producing records or nothing. I just know I liked the music. And I was listening to the music as a fan.
Yeah.
And then I started DJing by accident because my friends had turntables across the street. And they used to DJ clubs, but it was more like freestyle music, like electro hip hop, like, you know, real fast, high energy shit. And I would just play with their turntables. And then in about a week, I could do everything they could do. And they was like, shit, you learn fast. Come DJ the party with us. So I went on early. Nobody was even there yet. And I was like, oh shit, there's girls here. Fuck it, I want to do this again. And I got $50. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start doing this shit. And then I just started bringing my hip hop element and started getting into the battles and doing all the battle shit. Won the DMC Westcoast in 1989. And then during that, I was like, all right, now I'm tired of playing other people's music. I want to play my music now. Then I got into production. So when you start traveling, you see the reaction of the people live, how they're reacting to your music. That tells you everything, right? So that alone, playing these festivals in Europe and traveling the world back in the 90s, just lets you know, like, oh shit, we done did this shit. Now we're making this shit bigger for everybody else coming on after us, you know what I mean? We spread this shit around the globe. One thing I could always say about the Germans is the appreciation for the culture and the way they preserved it was amazing. You know what I mean? They have a love for it that a lot of people here have lost, and they preserved the culture and they got respect for the culture. Plus, you know, Kraftwerk Trans-Europe Express that inspired Planet Rock, which inspired all that techno hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All the Luke Skywalker shit, all that stuff that was fast like that at the time. So you got to think the Germans had an influence in hip hop from Kraftwerk.
That's right.
Yeah, man, big one.
From that angle. It's a new day and I've got lots of plans. But first, I need to grab a healthy American breakfast. And then I'm heading to Inglewood to meet our next artist. He's the winner of Rhythm and Flow, Netflix's first competitive hip-hop show, where he impressed judges like Cardi B, Chance the Rapper or T.I. It's no wonder his debut album was nominated for 2 Grammys. His name is D Smoke, and he's gonna tell me about the moment his career took flight.
Never broke and shed a tear, right? Until after the finale, when I'm standing there, he had called my name. My plan was like, if he says my name, I'm gonna take a knee, thank God, and stand back up. I go to take a knee, Flawless tackles me with a hug, like, congrats, my nigga, like, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. He said, D-Smoke. I'm like, whoa, shit, right? Flawless hit me, bam. I'm like, what the fuck, right? I still take my knee, stand back up, hold my head high. I was not gonna cry, right? Look over, I see my mom, and my mom is tearing up. I'm like, fuck, damn it, right? So that's when I start to shed one. Well, the thing is, there's only one way to do a rap show correctly, and there's a million ways to fuck it up and do it bad, right? I don't even know if I'm supposed to curse, but it's a million ways to mess that up, right? Because you gotta be careful when you want to do something authentically, right? So they had the right consultants, who really had their ear to the streets and searching for contestants who really had an art form that represented hip hop.
But you have to trust into the people maybe behind these guys who are running American Idol things, because with the idea of American Idol, it would have been more
absolutely.
Clown shit maybe.
Exactly, but check it. There were plenty times where I said no. Yeah. All through the filming process. There were outfits that they was like, yeah, we'd like to see you now. I was like, nah, You know, then it was like, then the feature round.
Yeah.
Miguel, I had to do a verse to a Miguel song. They said, you're the contestant, you have to be on stage the whole time. I said, no. Like, and then they were like, what you mean, no? I said, no. I know what it looked like for $1 million to be spent around me. If I walk off this motherfucker, y'all don't have no show. No. And I was like, get the lawyer. Did I sign something saying I'd be on stage physically the whole time? If y'all trying to do something authentic to hip hop, when a feature comes out on a concert, there's a reveal. So you let this show happen, and then I'll come out with my verse and bust, and it's gonna be dope. And then they talked to the lawyer and all that stuff, and long story short, and this is, you know, the feature round was the second to last round.
Yeah.
You know, so by this time, it's not 40 contestants no more, it's 8. You know what I'm saying? Or it's 6. So y'all done spent a lot of money.
Is there maybe a chance that you can show me something here in Inglewood that
Absolutely.
is absolutely even important for you and your hip hop history, that we can find another sport maybe?
Absolutely.
Show me something?
We could pull up to the Inglewood Swap Meet. And there's Market Street is a good place to go because Market Street is a good demonstration of like old Inglewood meets new Inglewood.
Let's go there.
For sure.
Thank you so far.
Man, absolute pleasure. The thing about LA rap is that there's always been like a strong tie between like gangs and LA rap. So for somebody like myself, it was always like, how do we navigate that? How do we get to another level without being connected to that gang scene? Like most LA rappers, like the Snoops even, you know, the Snoops, the Mac 10s. Mac 10 is a certified blood. Snoop is a certified Crip. And it's part of how people come up in the rap game in LA. They got all of the support of their team members, you know, so for us, that was something we had to navigate. But of course, you have those exceptions. You got the Kendrick Lamars, who doesn't necessarily gangbang, but he's super close to that lifestyle and very affiliated. So that's just something that LA artists, whether you're from Inglewood or Compton or South Central like Nipsey, that's something we have to navigate. And so, and that's also why when I was on Rhythm and Flow, that's why Snoop pressed me like, where you from? You know, because if you're coming from LA and you got that authentic energy, 9 times out of 10 is because you earned your respect in the streets first. And we just did it our way.
You're speaking both languages, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're doing your rap thing also in Spanish. Why?
Because I believe I represent Inglewood. You know, and Inglewood, I don't represent just a certain part of it. I represent what it's meant to me. And it's always been that for me, you know. And LA as well. Like it's the greater LA area is probably 60% Latino, you know. Muy bien. Hola, Nicolás. Una bolsa con la otra. Okay. Hip hop told me who I could be. You know, when I was a kid and my brother put me up, like I always tell this story, my brother put me up on Outkast when I was 10 years old. And I already knew that I was really smart. But I already knew that we grew up in the hood and I was becoming this young kid from that area. But to listen to music that gave me permission to be smart and creative and hood and gangster and all of this at the same time, you know, anything that helps you move through the world and feel comfortable in your own skin, that's saving your life, you know? And hip hop does that, you know? The best hip hop, you know? And so that's my story and my experience with hip hop, you know? And same thing with like even Snoop and Corrupt, you know, helping me navigate LA and knowing and understanding where I'm at and the rules that govern it, you know? So, absolutely.
Would you say that a guy like Snoop is even very important for your career, just as a what is it? As a kind of
mentor, as a big homie, as Uncle Snoop.
Uncle Snoop?
Uncle Snoop. Like Snoop, man, Snoop has shown nothing but love. Snoop he sets the bar for what you can be in this industry as a rapper, as a musician, as a philanthropist. Snoop showed up to my video shoot in Inglewood, and Snoop, mind you, is the biggest Crip in the game.
Yeah.
But he's in Inglewood, a predominantly blood city, and he's outside. He got one security guard, but they're not blocking him from the people. He's walking up to the people saying, "What's up?" And the Bloods come out and they like, "Uncle Snoop, what's up, Blood?" And he like, "What's up, cuz?" They like, "Hey, can we get a picture?" They come take pictures with him. You know, he brings a food truck out, feeds the hood. And so he's just, when he pulls me into his Sprinter van to talk to me just one-on-one, he was like, "Look, nephew, I'm gonna show you how to secure your legacy." And
Okay, got it.
That was the special conversation. And that was the day he pulled up to my video shoot with the song that me and him had for Gaspar Yanga. And he showed up, no charge. He brought food, he contributed, and then he left and just blessed it, you know? So Snoop is one of those few, those few guys who really influence, you know, not just the kind of music I want to make, but who I want to be in the long run.
Each one teach one.
Each one teach one.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
It was a pleasure. I'm back on the road again, and there's someone very special I want to meet. It's not an MC, nor a DJ, but even if you only know a little bit about hip-hop, you will probably know his name. Some people call him the godfather of hip-hop clothing. The designer, Karl Kani. His clothes are iconic, and we are up in the hills to talk about his collaboration with one of the greatest hip-hop legends ever, Tupac Shakur.
I have maybe like 5 different storage areas where I keep all my vintage pieces. I just had stuff here because this helps me when we design new collections. I come here and pull out stuff to kind of get...
It's a creative spot.
Yeah, creative like that. So this is where I come when I want to be here with the guys working. I come in here and just get inspired and go from there. You know Redman?
Yeah, of course.
There's Nas right there. Old Karl Kani pieces. See how big they are? It's the old Tupac t-shirt right here.
Oh, damn.
You know, I'll share one story with you about Tupac. So, you know, Tupac was one guy that used to wear my clothing all the time. I mean, every time I turn on the video back in the days, I see Tupac wearing it, from, you know, Keep Your Head Up to I Gotta Get Mine, MC Breed, R.I.P. to both of them, MC Breed and Tupac. So I really want to meet him, so I hooked up with my guy, and we met with Tupac at the Hotel Niko in Beverly Hills. And so we go to his room and I knock on the door and he says, "Come in." And this is the first time we meet face to face. And he's in his room, he's by a computer and he's typing a script to a movie. And we're talking about black culture, hip hop, you know, artists, what kind of music he likes and things like that. So I wanted to ask him about doing a clothing ad for me, but I was waiting for the right opportunity to ask him because I didn't know if he would have thought that to be offensive for me to come there and ask him to do an ad for Karl Kani. So finally the room service came to the room to deliver some food for him, and I said, "Okay, here's my opportunity." So I was like, "Yo, Pac, how much would you charge me to do an ad?" And he got really, really quiet and he stopped talking. And I'm thinking in my mind, I shouldn't have asked him. I effed up, right? That's what I was thinking. And he just looks at me in my face, he says, "Yo, you black. I don't charge my people for nothing." And I was like, damn, I'm stunned, I'm numb, because I didn't expect that response from him. And then he says, "Wait a minute, I want one thing." So I'm thinking to myself, okay, here we go. How much millions you want for this? He's like, "Can you put Thug Life," he says, "Can I put Thug Life artists in some of the clothing ads, in some of the pictures of him?" I was like, "Hell yeah, we could do that." I would love that. He was like, "That's it?" I was like, "That's it." He's like, "That's it." And then a whole nother side of Tupac came out. Now he starts laughing, then he basically visually directed that photo shoot within 5 minutes. He said exactly what he wanted the shoot to look like. Everything he said happened just like that.
Biggie or Tupac is the question you can ask every hip-hop fan all over the world,
right?
Because everybody knows both. Is that something you learned from that, guys, for your own business?
So what we learned is that you can't fake the funk. You gotta be what you are. Be true to your DNA of what you are as a brand. Don't try to move to where the trends are going. With Kani, we've always stayed true to the DNA of what Karl Kani is about. So that's why with us, people just know we're real. When you come to Kani, you know what you're getting. You know where we're at. You know the legacy that's behind it. And you know, like, if you want to be dope and be cool, you wear Kani. And just like, it's just nothing else to be said about that.
So we keep moving. Next, I'm going to meet Murs. He's an outstanding rapper who even set a world record for rapping for 24 hours straight. But that's not all. Beside his rap skills, he's known for his commitment to social justice and equality. For Murs, hip-hop is even more than music. It's a lifestyle that connects people. Back in the 90s, he even hosted Cool Savage before he became the German king of rap. It looks like Murs championed the value of hip-hop. Today, I'm meeting him on Central Avenue, which was once the heart of LA's black community. Let's get his perspective.
This is South Central. This is Central Avenue. It used to be what's called Brown Broadway. So in the 20s, 30s, 40s, I think even to some of the 50s, I have to get my history straight, but during segregation in America, during Jim Crow, which was never really a law in California, but kind of an unspoken law, Miles Davis, Ella Fitzgerald, like all the jazz celebrities, musicians would play in Hollywood, but they weren't allowed to stay in the hotels. So they would have to come back to South Central and stay down here at a hotel called the Dunbar. And then after, this would be all the after hour spots. So then all the stars, white stars, black stars, all the stars would come here to party.
Okay.
And that created a thriving business. So wherever you worked in LA, you had to live near Central Avenue on this side in Watts and everything. And Watts and Compton, all those used to be white neighborhoods. But then blacks started to get jobs and come from the South, where it was even more hard and racist, and get jobs here, and they started doing well. And this whole area started to thrive. So in order to kill that, they started integrating Hollywood, and they started allowing black artists to stay in Hollywood, allowing black people to live, and that kind of destroyed the community we had here. Here, the first gangs in LA were white gangs.
Oh, really?
They were the spook hunters and all kind of racist gangs that would try to discourage black families and black youth from going to school or living in white neighborhoods like Watts or Compton or even South LA. And we started our own gangs like the AC Deuces, the Slawsons, the Businessmen, all these things to fight the white gangs and to keep our community safe. It wasn't originally gangbanging, it was originally community protection.
Yeah.
And the Watts riots happened, I believe, in '65, the uprising. William Parker, who was the police chief at the time, I believe, started bringing in the most racist cops from the South to work here. And they did not allow race mixing. They did not allow black people in certain neighborhoods after that. And so that created a tension, and which boiled over into the uprising. And so then all the white people started moving to the suburbs. So downtown LA, where you've been, the Staples Center's all nice now, turned into a shithole. I always say I saw a Bob Marley interview once, and the lady asked him how long he had been a Rasta, and he said ever since. So just, I feel like, you know, I was born in '78, so hip hop was just always around, you know, and rhyming and reading, and just words have always been something interesting to me. So, you know, but I think the first time I thought like I could really do it, I was living in Linwood, and they played Eazy on the radio. And he would look like, and well, I hadn't seen him, but like, yeah, I did. I seen the record at the swap meet. He had a Jerry curl. He looked like the OGs in my neighborhood. And I was like, before it was just all East Coast dudes, like Kangos and chains, and that wasn't what was going on out here. It was like Dickies and white t-shirts. So when I saw him, and he's from Compton, which is right next door to Linwood, I was like, I can do this. And he was rapping about stuff that I saw, like 6'4" Impalas and Alpine stereos and Jerry curls. So I knew like it was possible. And from then, I just, you know, I would just make up raps. Back then, you still didn't rap to get rich. There weren't Jay-Z, there was no Bentleys, there weren't rappers throwing money in their videos. It was, you did it because you loved it and you wanted to be the best. You wanted to be known. Yeah. And I think that's my dream, was just to do music as long as I could and maybe tour the world, you know, to have my own skateboard. I remember in 86 thinking like, I want my own skateboard. Rappers didn't even skateboard like then, but I was already thinking like, I want to be the skate MC and just have my own skateboard. And, you know, I did that. And like, then I was like, I want to go to Japan. Like, those are the things that I thought, and I want to be able to pay my rent rapping. Like now, you know, now I've bought houses, I bought apartment complexes with rap money. Shit I never thought possible. Over the years, I've made millions of dollars.
Keep fingers crossed.
But it was never the goal. Like you said, what was my goal? My dream was just to be on stage, to be the best.
It's time to meet a new graffiti artist, Mr. B Baby. But Mr. B Baby isn't a Mr. at all. She will explain more about that a bit later. Her art intrigues me. All these bright colors, they seem to be the opposite of darkness. Literally. Her art radiates happiness and joy. She's inspired by Latin American influences and even children's books. A beautiful facet of hip-hop culture that I have yet to encounter.
I feel like that's what I love about LA. LA is filled with people who have like big dreams, and that's why I feel like I connect with the people here so much, because I'm a dreamer. I think a lot of the work that I create is really like to show representation to my culture, and also I want a lot of my work to tell stories about mental health and talk about those types of issues like anxiety and depression, but like do it in a way where it doesn't put them in such a like negative light, like in more of like an accepting way. And so I think those are my goals with what I'm doing. What it stands for is Michelle Ruby and then Brown Baby. And the reason why I actually chose that name is when I originally got into this, I feel like it's such a male-dominated industry. And so I thought that coming across like a man would benefit me and that I would get more respect that way. And so that's why I started with that name. I know like now I feel like it's a disservice just because there's not that many women doing it. And so I feel like I want to be loud about the fact that I am a woman in this industry that is so male-dominated. There was a point in my life where I just was at the lowest low, and I pulled myself out of that, and that's when I was like, you know what, like I want to live my life the way I want to live it, and so I started to paint murals. I never stopped doing it. It's been really cool because it's something that is so fulfilling to me. It pulled me out of such a dark place. It helped me a lot through my anxiety, my depression, and my struggles with addiction. And I feel like it's replaced all those negative addictions, and now it's my new addiction. When I moved to LA, I was like a conscious, like, I'm gonna make this happen. I just had my daughter, and it was either to do this or I was gonna do a government job. But I couldn't do that and just get stuck in that without exploring this and seeing if I could take this on fully. And so I gave all of myself to this, and it worked out pretty well.
So far, we've met lots of different people from across the hip-hop scene. And all of them seem to be very well established, successful. Just like DJ Besuch. He's celebrated great chart successes with his crew Dilated Peoples, and he's racked up countless titles at DJ competitions. He can call himself a DJ world champion. But what about the next generation of hip-hop artists? Besuch is sharing his knowledge together with his DJ colleagues Redmatic and Silos. Because each one teach one. And this DJ crew seems to be very good at teaching. So, welcome to the Beat Junkies Institute of Sound.
fact that I could put my hand down and actually touch a sound and do things with it, I think is what really drew me to it. I think initially I loved scratching. I wanted to scratch. And then later I learned about the whole spectrum of what it really is to become a DJ. And it's a bit of an obsession, you know, working on your record collection, working on your skills, you know, understanding music more and your knowledge grows. And, you know, I love everything about DJing. And, you know, on top of just on one end of it, I feel like it's high end, very technical, you know, a skill-based craft, but on the other side of it, you know, just the beauty of being like a historian almost, understanding music and playing people, moving crowds, is something that's really special as well. So I love everything about DJing.
No, the person that actually brought up the idea was D Styles. He says, like, why don't we open up a school? At first, we were kind of like, you know, nah, you know, like you said, you don't want to share your techniques, you know, because it's that's, you know, like in terms of hip hop, you know, you don't want to show your techniques to the competition.
What if painting was like that? What if architecture was like that? What if design was like that? We'd still be wearing, you know what I mean? What would our clothes look like? What would our houses look like? You know what I mean? But we have all this innovation. And, you know, for us, I think Rhett hit it on the head, you know, like, we can get on the internet and complain all day about things, but you know, our option was to get into the front lines of the battle on the ground level, and instead of complaining, we're gonna share our music, we're gonna share our knowledge, we're gonna create things that help sustain the culture and you know, teach. You know, instead of complaining, I'd rather connect with the younger generation and show them the beauty of this.
We don't promise you a career. We promise you that you know, passion. And you have to look at it that way. And I think for us, because we love what we do, we've been very lucky and blessed to have the school or even to have some type of career. I mean, granted, some of our associates are probably making more money than us or more popular than us, but I think for us is that we still have a longevity of just doing this.
I am a little scared. I'm over here on ChatGPT watching what AI can do now, and it's mind-blowing. If we're not already there, we're months away from a program being able to rock a party. You just, you know? And so that sometimes does scare me. You know, I never imagined that the technology can do what we can do. We always have to like deal with commerce and changing technology and how it is. And, you know, for us, I don't want to consider it like, it's kind of a good comparison, vinyl and film, digital, analog. But, you know, I think it's up to us as instructors and culturalists to like stay abreast of what we can do instead of pushing back against it. Like, I think it's so amazing. Serato is crazy. Like, it's just changed the game. The things we can do now with music.
It all comes down to, regardless of what tool you have have the fundamentals. And I think we're very blessed that we still teach the fundamentals, because some of our students, when they do on the digital, they're already excellent, but some of them that came from digital that went to vinyl and then went back to digital, they're always saying, man, I wish I started vinyl first, because their DJing knowledge has become more better versus them just, like Babu says, is like you're watching a screen, you're just looking like you're reading an email. When we able to teach them, they're now like, we remind them that DJing is really ears. You're not watching waves, you're listening to ears. When you listen to music and you're DJing, it's all about ears.
Before I leave LA, there's one more highlight I've got to check out. I'm heading to a very special location, the garage of Porsche collector Magnus Walker. Here, we're going to meet Esteban Oriol. You might recognize him from earlier. Every now and then, he appears in the frame. When we met DJ Muggs, Mr. B Baby, or D Smoke. He was always there. Because this man is 100% hip-hop and 100% LA. He started out as the tour manager of House of Pain in Cypress Hill, and today has his own Netflix documentary. Without him, this film wouldn't be the same.
I'm gonna keep doing it till my last day, you know? When I was about 18, I moved to Hollywood and started working in the clubs and doing construction. And once I hit about 21, 22, I started working as a doorman in the clubs. And that's where I met a lot of the rap groups like Ice-T and Rhyme Syndicate and Everlast, Cypress Hill, Booyah Tribe, you know, a lot of different hip hop that was coming out of LA at that time. They would go to the clubs in Hollywood.
It was around 90, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I became friends with Muggs. I met him at a place called the King, which was a cool little bar, and they had like DJing. Even Mick Jagger would go in there and perform sometimes just because he felt like it. So it was like one of those cool little bars that somebody would just pop up and get up on stage and do a couple songs. So after becoming friends with him for a couple years, he asked me if I wanted to do tour manager work. And I thought it was for Cypress Hill first, but he said, no, it's for a new group I have coming out called House of Pain. So I met up with Everlast, and I had already known him from the clubs, and we talked about it, and the job was being a tour manager, but there was no money. So it was just only expenses paid. And if the group did good, they would start to pay me as they did good. So as you know, Jump Around took off immediately, and we were doing promo shows and college radio, and then our first tour was Beastie Boys tour '92, and we got kicked off of that tour for being too rowdy, too crazy. And then
on a Beastie Boys tour?
On a Beastie Boys tour, yeah, we were too much for them. And then we ended up going to doing our own tours and traveling around the world. And then around '94, they didn't want to tour no more. They weren't really getting along. And I called up Cypress Hill, and they were like, okay, we have a spot for you on our side. So I went over there with them, and my first show with them was Woodstock, '94.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of pressure, you know?
Yeah.
I had to really perform on a whole different level. And it was, you know, to this day, that was the biggest show I've ever been to, biggest show I've ever seen. So I handled myself good there, and they took me on for another 11 years.
Okay.
And in that time, I was taking photos and filming with like a Super 8mm film camera. Not as much as I should have, but I did it enough to where I have a good archive now of photos. And I met a lot of magazines because I was setting up the press for everybody. Met a lot of people in the industry because I was the tour manager. You know, we were on tour with everybody. And I just built a good rapport with everybody, and, you know, always was respectful with everybody and had a good relationship with everyone. And you know, I got a pretty good name in the industry. People answer my phone calls, you know, so.
That's a very important point.
Yeah.
As an insider, can you describe the vibe, maybe the thing what makes LA and hip hop from LA so special and so different, and why it influenced almost half of the world?
I mean, LA is a unique place, you know. It's like it's a big, spread out place with a lot of different kinds of people. You know, this is a place of the kind of people that are from here and the kind of people that come here. Most of the people that are here are the people that come here. There's not a lot of the people that are from here. So there's a lot of things happen, you know. A lot of whenever there's a lot of people, you know, some shit's gonna happen. People come from out of town, you know, they think, you know, it's the city of dreams, and it is. You can come here and make anything out of anything you want. You know, you just have to work for it and make all the right choices.
Do you see visions in everything you're making, right?
Yeah, Everything I do is like, it's like a lot of it is thought out, and a lot of it is going with the flow or spur of the moment. Like some of my photography things, most of it is I show up and I shoot whatever's there. And, because if you're working for like a magazine or something like, Backspin or whatever, if you guys would call me back in the day and be like, hey, I need you to go shoot exhibit, we did a phone interview with him and we need 10 photos for the layout. I would call him up or you guys would set up. I go to wherever he says to go, like, hey, come to my house or come to my studio, and I have to make the best of it when I get there. And I've never seen it, so I don't know what it is. So it's like, I have to go there, look around and be like, okay, cool, we could shoot against that wall, or maybe in the studio. All right, I got this. So, people don't think about that type of stuff when they see photos. They don't think about like how much work went in it, like planning it or not planning it, just showing up and be like, okay, I'm gonna make the best of it. I'll go here, shoot him right there against that wall, and that was it. Some of it's planned out and some of it's, winging it, they call it here. An exhibit I've known for the longest time, like Exhibit worked at that store, the Supermax store.
Oh, really?
And, we've toured with him. We did the anger management tour, Cypress Hill, the Exhibit, Crondon, Mitchie Slick, like Chase Infinite, Obi Trice, the G Unit, D12, and Eminem, 50 Cent. Like, that was one of the most incredible tours I've ever been on. And it was a Europe leg of anger management. And then, I've been around Exhibit through all the videos with the Dr. Dre Snoop Dogg camp as well. So I figured, he was a good person to represent the culture from LA and also the industry, because look at what he's done from hip hop. How many rappers is there? Thousands. And this guy went into movies, went into TV. To me, he's like inspiration as far as a businessman. So we had to get him,
Okay, if Esteban says I can't leave LA yet, who am I to argue? We can't visit the West Coast without meeting Exhibit. I think you all know him. He's an absolute legend of gangster rap and of reality TV. He toured with Dr. Dre and has hosted the MTV show Pimp My Ride. He's also an actor and a radio personality. But hip-hop will always be his first love.
You have no choice. You don't live with regrets. Yeah. Regrets will kill you early. You know what I'm saying? Like, even the wrong shit I did, I had a fucking great time doing it.
Yeah, maybe that's right.
Yeah. My love for hip hop is two different times. My love for hip hop started when I was a kid. My parents were extremely religious. And they hated hip hop. I was not allowed to listen to hip hop. So when they would find something, I had like a CD or I had a tape cassette or had headphones or something, they would literally break it in front of me, like with hammers and shit, and break the CDs and all that. I just couldn't get away from it, but because my love for hip hop was stronger than what my parents wanted for me. You know what I'm saying? I started writing my own raps at 13. And I did not know it would be a career. I just wanted to write my own rhymes and battle at lunch at school.
Everybody in Germany knows you also for Pimp My Ride.
Yes. When I started Pimp My Ride, I had no idea that show was going to do that. There was no okay, this is going to work. Nobody fucking knew. Reality TV at the time was taboo. It wasn't for us, right? It wasn't like the thing like now. Everybody wants to be on TV or on a reality show or kind of podcast or something. That was like new territory. So me coming from gangster rap and hardcore hip hop and like underground, stepping into that, I did that show because I wanted MTV to play my videos. Right? And so I was like, yeah, I'll host the program. You know what I'm saying? Little did I know that it was going to take on a whole new thing. So I thought I was going to do that and still continue to go tour and do rhyming and put out albums and shit, but it became a whole different thing. Hip hop I could do in my sleep. Hip hop is my heart.
Yeah.
Hip hop is a catalyst which makes everything work.
So it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't do it for money. If I did it for money, I would have quit a long time ago, you know, but I do it because I love it. Acting was never in the forefront of me making music. I never was like, oh, I'm gonna go do movies. As I was writing, I always thought music was the thing, right? And I'll ride this all the way to the end, but as you mature, as you grow, you can feel that you are able to do other things, and it's up to you to push yourself to do that.
But what is the most important thing that hip-hop brought to your life, beside maybe success?
Peace. Hip-hop brought me peace. You know? It could have went so many different ways for me. Like I said, I know a lot of hip-hop artists say it, but, you know, I didn't expect to live past 21. So...
You mean that honest, right?
I'm fucking dead-ass serious.
Huh?
You know? I was taking a lot of shit. You don't know you're doing shit that is life-threatening to yourself and others until you have a chance to get away from it. When you're in it, you're just doing it because that's what you do. That's your environment. You know, you survive and you move, and that's how you move, you know? I was in the trap, I was in the street, was with guns, was this, was that, was, you know. I'm surprised my liver still works. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit was not, you know, like, but we were like self-medicating. We were coping. We were, you know, all we had was each other and this thing called music. And, you know, it would define everything. It was the soundtrack to our lives. And it was entertainment for others, but at the end of the day, it was our lives.
The time has come to leave the city of dreams. And one thing's for sure, I've had a blast. I've met so many people from all sides of hip-hop culture, my culture. And every time I visit LA, I get a better understanding of what the West Coast is all about. How important the city was for the development of rap, and how it inspired some of the greatest artists. I will take one final walk on Venice Beach, and then I will be on my way, because there's another city we need to explore. I'm heading south, to Atlanta. The city feels different. It might display a rough exterior, but at its core, it's incredibly friendly and warm. It feels like a family town, at least a little bit. Musically, it's a melting pot. Known as the birthplace of trap, a rap genre from the early 90s, the city embraced other styles like Dirty South and crunk, which helped shape the scene and culture. It shouldn't come as a surprise that famous artists like Outkast, Ludacris, Lil Jon, T.I. and Future all hail from here. The first artist we're meeting here in Atlanta is Speech. As a rapper, he was the leading voice of the hip-hop crew Arrested Development. Their first album, released back in 1992, was everything but gangster rap, with intention.
I love gangster rap. I love the aesthetics of it, the groove of it, the vibe. And even the boldness of the message and the fearlessness of the message. But I come from a family of civil rights activists. My mom owns the largest black newspaper in Milwaukee. Growing up around that atmosphere, and Milwaukee is the most dangerous place for black people to live, and the worst place for black people to live in the whole United States of America. That's where I grew up. So I saw crime. I saw the disparities between white people that live this way and black people living this way. I saw the poverty, the pain in a very real sense. So I knew that gangster rap was at first honest, but as it continued to develop, it was being developed by huge corporations that wanted it to become just blaxploitation music. And they wanted it to be the black gangster, a caricature of the black pimp, a caricature of the black woman in the ghetto, a caricature of all of it. And it became something different. And as a lover of hip hop and as a lover of black people, I needed to come out with something to juxtapose that, to bring another energy. It wasn't that I hated what gangster rap was or even what it became, but it needed to be more balanced because there was a while there where it was becoming all that hip hop was about. And so Arrested Development's goal was to highlight that fact and bring more to the table. And we did that.
What was your or the idea of the crew about Arrested Development?
Yeah, we knew that it was special. We knew that, you know, being a fan of hip hop for as long as we've been, we knew what had been done and what hadn't been done. We knew what would be fresh to the genre and what would just be a continuation. So when that album, even when it was in pre-production stages, because we recorded that album first on cassette, 4-track cassette, because I produced the record. So I produced it, we recorded it at my crib on a 4-track cassette. Then we recorded it again on an 8-track cassette, because I bought a bigger, they had these Tascam 8-track cassettes that came out, and I bought those. And then we did it again. Then we got a deal and we did it, you know, on 50-odd tracks, you know, at a real studio. And every time we did it over, we added and, you know, tweaked it and made it better and better. And by the time this record was finished, it was the most polished, the most potent and concise version of that album. Because, you know, that album had 25 songs on it at first. It ended up having 15. So even that, just cutting down some of the fat, you know. And to some extent, I regret it because it did so well. That record selling 4 million albums allowed us to be in spaces that, again, another mind-blowing situation, just things that we never would have imagined. There was no way that we would have thought Atlanta was gonna rule hip hop. And in the early days, we knew we was doing something different. See, Atlanta is not just high rises, wired fences, and concrete jungle. Atlanta is black churches, it is nature, it is greenery, it is Southern hospitality, it is home cooked food, it is more family oriented. That's just what Atlanta is. So the music started to reflect that. So we knew that we were bringing something new. Like when Arrested Development used blues samples on Mama's Always on Stage, or, you know, rhyme styles that had more melodic energy, that was Southern, that was the Southern experience, you know what I mean? And so we knew that we were bringing something new to the table, but over time, it became the epicenter of all of hip hop music. And there was no way that people that was there in the beginnings, like Arrested Development and others, would have known that it would end up being that powerful. You know what I mean? At least I didn't.
Today, Atlanta is the epicenter of modern rap music. For more than 20 years, the characteristic 808s from the dark corners of the city have dominated the sound of an entire genre. Welcome to the world of trap. What sounds like a gangster movie is reality for many people here. Their day-to-day experiences have shaped the sonic qualities in the music, which has evolved over the time. And there's no better place to experience it than the Trap Music Museum, one of Atlanta's newest cultural hotspots. Here I'm talking to two people. One of them is standing next to me. Let's come back to him in a minute. But first we've got the video call with a real trap music pioneer. And yes, it's really him, T.I. Trap, look, I have some special friend here on my side. You see him?
What's going on, man?
Come on, man. Giving them the royal treatment, man.
Man, hey, man. Any friend of yours, definitely a friend of mine, man. Always a treat when players meet. Before you can be a king of anything else, you must master how to be a king of yourself first. So a king of oneself, this is my attire. And thank you so much for visiting our humble abodes. And I can't wait to get on your side of the turf where I can come to Germany and you can show me how y'all do it.
Until now, I've met so many artists on my journey. But something is missing. Who exactly are these musicians and hip-hop artists doing it for? The fans, of course. Let's meet one. We're going to visit Nuface, the guy we saw just before. He's probably the most famous hip-hop fan in the world.
This is not open to the public. And so you're one of the chosen few to be invited in here. I don't just let anybody come to where, I do sleep here. I raise kids here. This is not open to the public, but so,
I feel very honored.
I appreciate you from way over there to get a call from somebody to recognize what I do. And that lets me know that I'm doing something right. I'm doing something. Nobody called me and said, don't do this. I'm getting only love. How can I not stop that? I'm collecting things that nobody will ever have. This purple tape, right? There's multiple purple tapes. This was the start of it, right? Raekwon. They call it the holy grail of hip hop. This, because it was the purple tape.
Okay.
The Wu-Tang. So again, if you look on eBay or Amazon, the purple tape and the wrapper, $1,000. You can buy this. So think about this. I have the purple tape, so all right, give me $1,000. No, this is different. Mine is signed by Ghostface and Raekwon. And then on the inside, it's autographed by those guys too.
Okay.
So that, again, nobody has that. You got newer artists putting out cassettes. Like this is a recent cassette. This is Run the Jewels, Killer Mike. But those are new cassettes.
That's cool.
So it's like other artists are learning that, there's still collectors out there that still love this physical copy.
Yeah, I would love to have these, but
there's
no market in Germany for it.
Yeah, this is a new last year album. Pusha T, nominated for a Grammy, but he released limited edition cassette tape. And again, it's purple. Eminem's first album, purple tape. So I love to see the aesthetic of people doing something like for history's sake. So you look at all those, the purple tape. Who has all three of the purple tapes? Everybody wants to be on the stage and wants to be seen. I don't need to be seen. I want the star to be the star. And I didn't see enough fans. So I want to show people it's okay to be a fan. I've been to multiple shows with a backpack full of stuff, and if they're in the line of fans, I said, I don't need the autograph. They're doing what they're doing. I like watching that. I love when other people do me. I'm next and it's my turn. I sit back because they're still being a star. And I want to show people, okay, it's okay to be a fan because as a fan, look at me now. Now I'm personal friends. Rappers there, I have in my phone, and if I call them up, they'll pick up the phone and I say, I'm doing this tomorrow. You think you can pull up? Yeah, I'll be there, Nuface. Yeah, of course, it's Nuface. I'll be there. It's like, oh shit. And then the fan comes to me and is like, oh, this is unbelievable. Like I was with Killer Mike at his barbershop. I called Royce the 5'9", and they're on my phone and they're talking to each other on my phone, and I'm like, oh, this is fucking amazing. These are my favorite rappers, and they're talking to each other, and they're on I made this happen because I was a fan. And I never asked them to do anything for me. They can't do anything for me. I don't need you to, I support you. This is my proof. None of this is free. I'm not a rich guy. This is my hard-earned money. I'm gonna paint. I support you. You inspire me. How can I show you I love you? I bought this when it came out. This gentleman right there behind, you see this picture right there?
Yeah.
That's Nipsey Hussle. Great artist.
Rest in peace.
Met him with my children. He had a Puma. Puma had his own set of shoes. So he had an in-store where people waited in line, buy the shoes, get a chance to meet him, take a picture with him. I didn't buy the shoes, but I waited in line, and because I had cassette, and I had this, and I wanted to get an autograph. And and some people they don't understand it. So then I pull out another tape and say, well, I met Nas, he signed this, and I met Noriega, he signed this. And then they're like, oh, you do this, okay. Oh yeah, I'll definitely sign this. And then it's like, well, you official, so I'll sign the inside too. And then when I met him, maybe seen him again, he did a concert here. Maybe 2 months later, he's there, and I'm taking a picture with my friend DJ Kerosene. I did a selfie, the selfie like this. And then I look at it, Nipsey is behind us doing like this. And that was a photo bomb. And then I seen him, and we dapped him up. He said, you don't remember me about a month ago? You met me with your daughters. Now this is a huge star at this point, but he remembered me. I've seen other people like, we went to school, you remember me? And you don't really remember me. Yeah. He remembered me. And this is months go by, and that's why I said that was a fan moment, because you don't expect them to remember moments like that. As much as they do, he's grabbing it, he live in the world. You remember that? So let me know I made an impression. So let me continue to make that impression to people that I'm a fan of. But my goal is to keep being me. I have to always be me, and that's what keeps me the most humble.
When I came to the city, Speech said Atlanta was gonna rule hip-hop. It looks like he was right, not only when it comes to music, but also when it comes to graffiti. Little 5 Points and the Croc Street Tunnel are the places to be. This is where I'm meeting Art Addict. She's a hip-hop nomad who moved to Atlanta after living in many places. Inspired by Latino culture and female empowerment, she has painted huge murals like the Somos Borincanos. Spread love through art. Now that's hip-hop too.
I'm obviously a city hopper. I lived in Fort Lauderdale, I moved to New York for 5 years, then I lived in LA for 10 years, and now I'm here, and I always follow the music. That's my method to finding who the key players are in the city. If you find the best hip hop spots to go to, the best reggae spots to go to, the best Latin spots to go to, and you get to know the DJs, and then you find out who they know, and it's just genuine connection, and it all starts with a beat, that beat's gonna keep going. And so that's kind of how I got my foot here, was like meeting, okay, who's really in the scene and how do I get to know them? And then from there, I just, started to meet other artists, and I just made my way. The one thing I'm thankful about my experience in New York is that hustler mentality. So it's like I have that hustler mentality, that kind of savage mentality, but the survival of the fittest mentality, but I'm not savage about it. You know what I'm saying? For me, I'm like, okay, how can I put somebody else on? I think this past year, the biggest thing that started to hit me is because now I walk around the city, I have more people like, oh, that's Art Addict. And I'm like, this is weird, and then, I had a friend who was helping me paint one day, assisting me. And she said to me, you don't really realize how big you've become. And I was like, it's not that I don't realize it. It's just that for me, all I'm doing is painting with my friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm doing. Like, and I get paid for it, and I get to give them money, and they can pay their bills, and I can pay my bills, and we just get to paint together. Like, that's how I look at it. But I think that it's also because I have the space to be able to look at it like that, living in this city. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes it, I think everybody is humble here. So you're able to like have more of a space to just like, hey, this is just cool. You know, like, I'm just living my life. It's nothing serious. Like, you know, it's chill. Living in LA for so long and living in New York, it got to a point where I was like, I'm tired of like the survival of the fittest mentality.
Oh, yes.
And I miss just like, you go to the grocery store here and the lady is gonna ask you, well, what are you making with this? Well, how do you make it? Did you have a good day? And they care. You know?
They really care?
They really care. Like, that's the best part about Atlanta is like, people wanna genuinely know. They wanna talk to you. They wanna get to know you. They wanna help each other out. It's just a sense of community. It's Southern hospitality. And I think that that's what truly has helped the city like thrive and grow, you know, and hip hop. Like, think about it. Every rapper in Atlanta has brought on another rapper.
Yeah.
It always happens. I used to be a very revolutionary kid. Like, I've only been to jail once, and it was for protesting.
Yeah.
You know, and
Really?
Yes. So, but at some point, as I started to get older, you get to a point where, like, instead of like always being mad about the injustices, I want to tell the story about the injustices in a colorful way so people can receive it. Especially in America, we only really learned about like the native Indians, but it was in fact the Taínos, because the ships, they all went through, you know, the Caribbean first. So a lot of the slaves that were sick, they would drop them off in the Caribbean. But that story is never told about them. And it's a big part of our history. I did like a 23andMe test, and I found out that I was 13% Taíno. And for me, it was like, okay, I really need to utilize these tools that I have as a muralist to be able like to highlight them and honor my ancestors and tell their story and represent for not just Puerto Ricans, but all the people of the Caribbean, because we all share this same rooted history. And I think as a human being, and not just an artist, but it really is important for you to understand your roots, because without you understanding your roots, you can't understand everything else. Like, you have to, the only way that you can get through life is with passion, you know? And so I really, this is like my series that I constantly go back to. I do a lot of other work, but this I constantly go back to. And the thing that was the coolest about the Taínos, the more I dug into their history, is unlike a lot of other tribes, when you read about them, the Taínos, all the chiefs, which we call caciques, were women. There were some men, but there was also women caciques. So it was really cool. So for me, in this mural and most of the work that I've done thus far with the Taínos, I've only highlighted women, because I think a lot of times when you think about, you know, native Indians and stuff and indigenous peoples, you always see the man, you know? So I wanted to focus more on the women and show women as being powerful, women as being warriors too.
Atlanta is a special place and definitely worth visiting, because it plays a major role in hip-hop culture. Surely I'll be back in the future, but now we have to move on. It's goodbye to the heat, because we're heading north to the East Coast. Now it's time to see where it all began, the birthplace of hip-hop. Let's hear it for New York. The city that never sleeps. It's loud, it's fast, it's dirty. I love it. In 1973, in the West Bronx, DJ Kool Herc and his sister Cindy hosted the legendary party where hip-hop was born. What began on Sedgwick Avenue has become the most defining culture in the world. You can't deny it. This city is special. Nothing is handed to you here. From nothing to something. That's hip-hop. Over the coming days, I'll be meeting some of New York's finest. Some who have sold millions of albums. There's also a b-boy legend and someone who will tell us more about hip-hop's healing power. I'm meeting with Joe Ficalora, the founder of the Bushwick Collective. Throughout his life, he has experienced moments of chaos, but turned his pain into something good. He transformed his rundown neighborhood into a mecca for street art and a place of community. And that is truly hip-hop.
Yeah, we're in Bushwick, Brooklyn. I'm born and raised here. My family came from Sicily in the 60s, and I grew up the block. My father got murdered around the corner from here.
Oh, really?
In a robbery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I had to continue growing up here. My first language is Sicilian. I learned English in school, so it was tough. And my mother raised me here with my family, and it was more of like a collective way I got raised. Like, your neighbors raise you, the block raises you, your aunts and uncles. Someone taught me English, someone helped me, someone drove me to school, that kind of stuff. So about 12 years ago, my mother got diagnosed with brain cancer, and she passed away quick. So on the first Mother's Day without her, I just needed to keep busy. And my friend said, find a hobby, go to the gym or play, video games. I can't do that, So I keep myself busy because I like it when people come together. So I threw a block party and, people started coming together. And after we did this, one of the elements that we included was graffiti and street art. And from that day on, I've just, every day, that first year we did 55 murals. The second year we did 85 pieces in New York and Miami for Art Basel. We've had some of the biggest, writers and artists from all over the world here, and also people who have superior talent, and it's become a family. And photographers, videographers, DJs, producers, performers, rappers, everybody that's the collective. Everybody just came together for the sake of just coming together because we do what we love. The first year of the Bushwick Collective, it was just me on a journey, figuring out why this is making me feel good, why this is making me go to work again, why this is making me talk about this and happiness. After a year and a half, I started realizing I don't feel bad for my mom no more. I'm happy because my mother, I started thinking when she died, what a sad life. She left, her whole life she was poor. They were eating stale bread that was left over and thrown out at the bakery with milk. If my grandfather didn't find fish, that's all they ate. Then she comes to America and her brother dies tragically at 20 years old in an accident. Her husband gets murdered. The neighborhood turns awful, drugs, violence, burning cars. Like, they would strip cars and throw them in the middle of the street, and people just walk around there like it's normal. So now the project has made me understand that life is about the moments in time. This moment we're sharing right now is what I carry with me. You know what I'm saying?
Influenced by the city's culture, this next guy has worked with some of the best rappers you can think of. And he's living his best life as a producer, DJ, and radio personality. His name is Static Selector. He knows exactly what hip-hop sounds like, or to be more precise, he knows the New York sound.
It's New York City, so it's grimy, it's dirty, and that represents in the music too. It's dusty, samples, dirty records, hard drums. It's just, the music's, like when you hear Mobb Deep, the Infamous, that's how New York City sounds, you know what I mean? And there's different styles of it. You got Tribe Called Quest, that's how New York City sounds. 50 Cent, that's how New York City, like, there's so many different versions of it. And now, of course, we got, there's a lot of drill rap and all kinds. There's different styles, but that didn't originate in New York. Hip hop originated in New York. The shit we do originated here. So I'm gonna make sure to hold that down, because that's all. I'm gonna mind my business about the other kind of music. But I love, I love some Pop Smoke, rest in peace. I love that, all that. But what we do is that shit that we grew up off. Places like Brooklyn and, everywhere I've ever lived has been an element of chaos. Like, motherfuckers getting robbed and shot outside the fucking studio. Like, and that's regular. I'm not glorifying, I'm just saying, like, you gotta be, that shit gives you PTSD. Like the old crib I was talking about, Myrtle and Broadway, probably 3-4 times a week, I was the first apartment in the building, someone would buzz and be like, I just got robbed at gunpoint, can you call the cops? And I'd be like, it's because I was the first apartment, so they'd buzz that. Like, it was happening nonstop. There was bullet holes in my window, like, shit was crazy. So there's a lot of elements that come with it that, not everybody can deal with. A lot of fights, friends and family, all that. This style of hip hop lives here. From doing the albums to actually having people like, Eminem reach out for beats and doing joints on, getting my first plaque and working with Snoop. Like, Snoop called me one day. Shout out my man Kev. Snoop called me and goes, hey man, cuz, I got your beat pulled up. What do you want me to do to it? I'm like, he's like, I already did a 16. I was like, that's more than enough. Thank you, man. I should have been like, I need another one. But he sang on the hook too. Like, having those kind of phone calls always bugs me out. A big moment for me was, I was out in Hawaii with Nas. I was DJing for Nas. And I'm just thinking I'm going to DJ for Nas. I land, and Consequence hit me on this is back in AOL Instant Messenger days.
Yeah.
Or no, BlackBerry Messenger. He hit me on BlackBerry Messenger and he's like, I heard you're in Hawaii. I'm like, I just landed, I'm late. He's like, come to Ye's crib. So I go to Kanye's crib and I walk in and it's Pete Rock, Common, RZA, Q-Tip, The Clips. Like, it was just No ID, Common, it was like the hip hop Last Supper.
Yeah.
And Kanye's like, yo, come bring Nas to the studio. We go to the studio after, and we're all just sitting in this room. And that was a moment where I was like, holy shit, the fact that I'm like here with all these guys, like in the mix, in the conversation, and I'm playing beats for Kanye, and like, it was just like, this is crazy. Like, that was the little kid in me being like, it doesn't always happen, but that's one of the moments. And I always liked the vibes in Brooklyn. I wasn't too familiar. And I moved right in the heart of Brooklyn. I lived on Myrtle and Broadway, craziness. And that crib it was called the original Show Off Basement. That crib became such a mecca for hip hop. When I tell you, like, the relationships that were built there, the careers that started there. First place Mac Miller recorded in New York. Joey did his first mixtape there. Action did his first album there. Freddie Gibbs' first mixtape there. It goes on and on and on. How many careers like really started there and took off, and so many legends. Like, you go there any night and, Fame, MOP would be there. You go there, Saigon would be there. Consequence, Souls of Mischief. So many legendary groups recorded there. And it just represented such an ill time. It was like 8 years we were there. And then, I've had a couple other spots in Brooklyn, but this has been here for the last 8 years.
Yeah, really?
And here alone, we've done Joey's second album, West Side Gun, Conway, rest in peace, Prodigy recorded here. A lot of music.
From what I've learned, the life in New York City can be tough. Even more than that, it can be very dangerous. Before I can meet with JC Hall to talk about something called hip-hop therapy, I need to pass a security check at the high school. Back in Germany, this would be crazy. Metal detectors, high security. Here, it's normal life. Past the gates, JC has created a safe haven for teens to express their emotions in a creative way.
Grandmaster Flash came through this school when it was one building, Samuel Gompers. Yeah. So it was a technical trade school back then. So this is where he first started tinkering with wires and learning how to do that, and then ended up developing a whole technique and linking the two turntables together based on like basic skills, technical skills he picked up here. So now to be back in this building and to learn about that later is beautiful. It's beautiful. And to be in the South Bronx in general, right? 1 in 2 kids are living below the federal poverty line. Tremendous unemployment rates, poverty rates. housing instability, insecurity, some of the highest concentration of public housing, people just living stacked on top of each other, gang violence through the roof, some of the highest crime rates the highest homicide rate in New York City, right here, 40th precinct. So yeah, this school is located in the heart of it. And the kids are from this community, right? So you can imagine all sorts of trauma they grow up with, experiencing, seeing every day, whether it's seeing friends, family members get shot, stabbed, a tremendous amount of gang violence. So yeah, and just poverty in general, right? Like, if you really think about just basic necessities not getting met, not having food in the fridge, not having money to even get basic needs. So what this school is, right, it's called a transfer school. And so what that means is essentially a second chance high school. It's for kids who have kind of slipped through the cracks of traditional public school systems, either because the schools weren't engaging them in the first place. What they're teaching has no relevance to what these kids are experiencing on the street, so they're not showing up. Or oftentimes it's because they got locked up, they're involved in foster care. There's a lot of external situations and circumstances that kept them from graduating on time. So they come here to gain credits quicker to try to graduate before they age out at 21. Hip hop has always been therapeutic for me, right? It was healing naturally. And I was also fascinated with psychology, the human mind, how it works. But it wasn't until I stumbled on my late mentor's work, RIP, Dr. Edgar Tyson. He developed this approach called hip hop therapy, which is a hip hop therapy studio program, right? So and what hip hop therapy is, it's an approach similar to say like a cognitive behavioral therapy, different approaches that is incorporating the inherently healing components of hip hop culture, that connection, that expression we were just talking about, with well-established treatment modalities, right? Whether it's a CBT, a DBT, finding a way to merge the two. And he first developed that in the mid-90s. So I stumbled across that word randomly, that phrase, hip hop therapy. And I keep seeing this dude, Tyson. Like, who is this dude, right? So I emailed him, and he turned out he's a professor at the one school I happened to be going to. It was very serendipitous. But the man walked me through it, right? He showed me a door I didn't know existed. And it wasn't until I knew hip hop therapy is like, this is an evidence-based practice. This is legit. This isn't just a catchphrase. That I realized, like, wow, I can really actually implement this. So I started doing that in my clinical internship for my training. And that's what led to this. I started here as an intern. It was my second year internship. And then they were like, we got to keep this kid around because whatever he's doing is working.
And what was the reaction of the kids, of the children?
They off rip from the first day, it was, we just clicked very naturally. And I think that's because hip hop culture is kind of something you embody. You know what I mean? It's kind of in the way you move, in the way you dress, in the way you look, speak, the intonation. People can kind of smell it on you. And I think kids and I, even though we're from different circumstances, look very different socioeconomic circumstances, we were able to just click and meet on that cultural turf, hip hop culture. Coming here and working with these kids is like a highlight of my life. It's given me reason to continue to wake up every day. Like, how many people say they wake up and are like excited to go to work? You know what I mean? Like, how many people really say that? Artists, maybe, everybody in this room, but we're the lucky few. Most people are like, damn, punching a clock, another check. It's like, it helps me personally as well, man. I think you see some of the darkest parts of humanity.
Yeah.
Doing this work, you hear some of these stories, but then you see some of the brightest, because I know where these kids are coming from and what they've experienced, but they're showing up here every day on time, hustling, grinding, coming after school for hours, making beautiful art and doing it again every single day. Like, if that's not inspiring, man, I don't know what is.
In many ways, life in New York City is shaped heavily by hip-hop culture. It has the power to heal. The next rapper we are going to meet would probably agree with this. Fame is a part of the world-famous rap crew MOP. The album Warriors is legendary, and he has some fascinating stories to tell. But before he found his own fame, he had to survive in a rough neighborhood in Brooklyn.
I want to take care of my mom. Take care of my mom and deal with our situation, our living conditions.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that. Brownsville is a part of Brooklyn that people don't mention or they try to forget about because it was so tough over there, it's so rough over there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's so beautiful over there. You got greats that came out of there. You got Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Shannon Briggs, you know, Boot Camp Clip, MOP. You got a lot of greats that came, a lot of good things came out of Brownsville. Kept me straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Usually kept me like this. But I still have the balance with the bullshit. You have the bullshit, but you want to do music. I can't do music when it's a bunch of ignorance around me.
Yeah.
But it's times where I could leave and go do music. And that was a dream to do music. It was a positive thing. And even the gangsters in my neighborhood was like, yeah, I like what you're doing. Keep doing it, you know what I mean? We got your back, we support you. Growing up in an environment like that, there's many distractions. You get in trouble, of course you get in trouble. But besides that, I'm just a good person. I love music and I do music. People in my neighborhood, not everybody was positive. Not everything was fucking peaches and cream in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's a guy, maybe it's a guy on the corner that's getting good money, doing whatever he do. And that's a dude I looked up to. Maybe his hands was dirty, but that's a guy that I looked up to. And anytime he snatched me up, yo, what up, little bro, what up, yo, here, take whatever. Or slap box, come on, throw your hands up, slap box, whatever. Oh, you got it, here's a couple dollars in your pocket. You know what I mean? Anytime you need me, I'm around. Little bro, come here, yo, come do this for me, run. You know what I mean? That's my role models in my neighborhood. We made music out of nothing. I mean, we'll get car speakers, put it in a cardboard box, run a wire, plug it up to an amplifier, make music out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't have beats starting out. I used to make pause tapes. I stop it, record it, stop it, rewind it for like 3 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, just to get a straight loop.
Yeah.
Take that tape, plug the mic up, and then rap over that, and then record that. So we made music out of nothing, but it was something fun to do. It's always been in my blood, always been in my genes. Hip hop, rap music played a big part with the neighborhood. The neighborhood played a big part with the music. And you hear it in the music. I always made music for my neighborhood. So, like, my first song I ever made was called The Hill That's Real. It was about my neighborhood, the hill, everything that was going on. I was like 16 years old when I made it, when I recorded it. You know what I mean? After that was How About Some Hardcore with me and Billy Dance. You know what I mean? So, first of all, when we made music, if you ain't got your neighborhood following you, if they ain't supporting you, it ain't shit. It ain't nothing like having your neighborhood behind you, because it starts there, then it gets bigger. We always represented our shit. Yeah, it's a Brownsville sound from day one, but did we know it was a Brownsville sound? No, we just went in the studio and did what we did.
Yeah.
We didn't try to come up with a specific sound, like we gotta sound like this. No, it was just natural. Me being me, Billy being him. And when we together, like I told you, we grew up from kids.
Yeah.
So our chemistry is like this. We have what a lot of groups don't have. We have fucking chemistry. You know what I mean? We could just, I hear Billy go crazy already. Ain't nothing else for me to do. I just gotta compliment the song. He hear me go crazy, he's gonna compliment. We don't fucking try to outdo each other. We fall in place. And that's the magic that we got. It was the Warriors album. We had Annie Up and we had Cold as Ice, the Warriors album. And they used to, Annie Up was going so crazy, they used to try to ban it in the clubs.
Oh, really?
What made the people want to hear it more. So they'll play a little piece of it. Fucking club go nuts. Oh, people, all type of shit going crazy. They would take off Annie Up and play Cold as Ice. Same energy.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Until they couldn't hold it no more. They can't hold, you can't stop the record. The record is just, and that's in the clubs. Not talking about radio. Just in the clubs. You throw that fucking Annie Up on, they going crazy. You know what I mean? So people used to steal the CDs back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At record stores, those were CDs. That wasn't like the digital, you got digital era now.
Yeah. And how was this for you?
hype. Mentally, you know, I'm still humble, but hype, I'm like, oh shit, I know this shit is a motherfucker. You know what I mean? I can say it to myself, though, I know that shit is, you know what I mean? Cause we knew what we was doing. We knew what we was doing. We knew it's a monster. We remember where you come from. Oh, it's easy to be humble. Yeah, it's very easy to be humble. Why wouldn't you be? Knowing the bullshit that I've been through, of course I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful. And I remember, I don't forget. MOP is a crew of brothers, like a brotherhood from one block, well not one block, from a neighborhood that grew up together and always had each other's back. So MOP will never go away. We got little baby MOP members. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know who they are. They know, oh, nah, that's such and such. Nah, my son know your son. Like, it's like that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So it's still going on.
It's still going on. Me and Billy's just the voices for it. My MOP is a brotherhood. That should have never died.
Ever heard of Dat Piff or Tape Kings? Well, you should have. Back in the day, these were the biggest platforms for mixtapes in hip-hop worldwide. And now, I'm happy to meet someone who calls himself the Mixtape King. But you may already know him as DJ Tony Touch. He has released hundreds of mixtapes, an astounding output that no one else can rival. They featured so many of the greatest rappers it would be impossible to list them all. Let's hear about it from the legend himself, who's meeting me in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn is the melting pot of all cultures and different races. We got Jamaican, we got Jewish, we got, European, Eastern European, of course, Latinos, blacks, Italians. I grew up around all of this, was around me all the time. I was very moved by the nightlife scene in New York. It was just clubs and parties everywhere, DJing, all these great music was coming out. Big Daddy Kane, Public Enemy, all that energy was all over the city. I started doing the mixtapes around 91 is when I started like Hip Hop 1, number 2, number 3. I just kept the numbers. It's easier for people to collect and follow,
Yeah.
But I've been DJing since 1985. But, the mixtape phenomenon was already started with Brucey B, Kid Capri, people like this, Ron G, Ron G and me around the same time, but before us, the Brucey B, Kid Capri, there was already a buzz in New York. Most of it was from uptown, Manhattan, in the Bronx. A lot of the stuff was coming from there. The mixtape stuff, and then I was one of the early Brooklyn guys. Let's say 91, 90, 91. There was no internet.
Yeah.
Radio stations were barely playing hip hop anywhere. You had to come to New York for everything. So people would come here, buy a bunch of tapes, take it to Germany, Japan, Russia, wherever. It got everywhere. It's crazy. It was a very competitive time.
Yeah.
A lot of DJs had different styles of how they do it. The guys from uptown in Harlem, more talking, more emceeing on the tape. I focus more on the mixing, the quality of the recording, really cool intros and stuff like that, and this presentation, that was my thing, And, but it was very competitive. I mean, you got 30 DJs in a record store, everybody's selling their tapes, And it was tough to stand out, but I developed a really cool following. People supported it, and the skills speak for itself, I guess,
That's right. That's even what hip hop is all about.
The skills speak for itself. At the end of the day, it's a friendly competition, so I strive to be the best. The mixtape scene was a big scene. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Mixtapes were getting played more than artist albums.
Yeah.
So things started changing, The late 80s, it was the artist, you buy the whole album, you listen to a Public Enemy album, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, start to finish, In the 90s, it became more singles, who had the hot record, single-driven. But still a great time. I mean, the birth of Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, you know, all these artists, Dr. Dre, you know, Snoop, all this stuff happening in the early 90s was next level. Again, graduated, you know, the sounds are different, a little more digital now, it's coming in. And it continues to morph into something else. It's never gonna stay the same, you know? Mixtapes was the radio station in the 90s, because there was no radio playing hip-hop anywhere in the world. You had to have a mixtape, you had to have the New Clue, K-Slay, Tony Touch, Doo-Wop. You know, this is how you heard your music and how you heard of this artist. And artists are getting bookings from stuff they do on mixtapes, you know, getting bookings all over the world. So the DJ has played a major role in blowing this whole thing up.
Wait, what?
My journey is nearing its end. But what would this hip-hop adventure be without breakdancing? It's one of the 4 main elements of hip-hop. This is where I've got to meet Popmaster Fable, a legendary b-boy and member of the Rocksteady crew. Today, he teaches at the NYU. In the past, his famous dance moves took him all over the world. And it all started right here in this park.
I could have easily been a drug dealer, you know, I could have done a lot of things, you know, like obviously illegal stuff. And, you know, I'm not going to say I was always a saint. We did stupid things.
You grew up in New York,
right? We grew up in New York. You get involved in weird things. And this is called Rocksteady Park. So it's like 99th Street and Amsterdam in Manhattan. So you know, when I first became a member of Rocksteady crew, I came to this park to meet the members. So that's what happened. We came to this park, and Wiggles and I, of course, had, you know, popping routines together, and we did our solos, and they were like, wow, okay, we want you guys, but you have to battle a crew to get in. And we said, all right.
I like that.
We battled them, and that solidified our place in Rocksteady. I grew up in Spanish Harlem in a real tough neighborhood. There was one of the biggest gangs in Spanish Harlem. In fact, it became the biggest street gang, called the Savage Samurais. They were established on the same block that I grew up on, 123rd Street between Lexington and Park. And they were notorious, you know, of course, gangsters, right? But they did like up rocking, you know, this whole war dance, you know, outlaw rock. And they were graffiti artists. So when they wrote graffiti, they went under the name Soul Riders Incorporated. They didn't use Savage Samurais. They didn't use that name. You know, so when I walked through my neighborhood, I was catching the vibes, you know? Not just the rhythm of the streets, the fashion, everything, you know? It was all inclusive. When hip hop started to become this whole commercial thing, I was like, they're commercializing my life. Our lives. I remember when I first heard the first rap song on the radio, and it wasn't even the Sugar Hill Gang.
Oh, no?
It was King Tim III.
Okay.
Yeah, the Fatback Band. You know, that was the first record that had what sounded like what we would listen to in a block party. Someone grabbed the mic and, you know, yes, yo, what have you. That's the closest, right? So when I heard that, I was like, it's on the radio? Because this is something you only heard in the streets.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wow, you know, this thing is like, is becoming much bigger than us. I have a lecture called The Great Hip Hop Swindle. In this lecture, there's a section I call The Stripping of a Culture. What I mean by that is that when the recording industry, they basically hijacked the word hip hop and made it synonymous just with rap.
Yeah.
Right?
Got it.
They eliminated the DJ. They said, you don't need that guy. We got a production dude in the sound booth. You know, aerosol art, forget the dancers. We're going to run with the one thing that's going to make us the money, and that's the rapper, right? That was the beginning of the downfall, right? So in the lecture, basically it's about the birth rise, fall, and resurrection in hip hop culture, right? So, you know, it's for anyone like me who grew up with this, like your whole entire life, it's very easy to see shifts when things shift around, right? The other thing is this. Nowadays, everyone's on a frickin' device. You know what we were? We were in the park. We were in abandoned buildings, jumping roofs, playing street games and stuff like that. So, you know, in terms of like oral history, it was happening live right there at the moment. It's not like, oh, I want to know about hip hop. Hold on, give me a few seconds. Google. Come on, man, you know? It took us, I would say, between a half hour and an hour just to get our rags right, just to go to a club or a block party. That plays a major role. This is urban armor. This is our regalia.
Do you think there will be one day when you can retire from...
Impossible.
Impossible?
If you go to a Native American reservation, let's say, or to a tribe in the Amazon or somewhere, and you see them with their culture, you know, there's rituals for everything. Before you go hunting, there's a ritual. You know, before you go to war, after war, when a baby is born, when someone transitioned, there's events, there's things that happen, the drumming, the this, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily a job to retire from. It's a lifestyle, at least for me. You know, it would be amazing if I can one day receive a pension from hip hop, but I don't see that happening because we're not at that place yet. You know what I mean? And especially the way I move and groove. I work with the industry, but I'm more of a grassroots dude, you know, an educator, grassroots guy. So it's quite often a thankless kind of road to walk, you know, and I'm not looking for sympathy. It's the road I chose. It's the road I chose. So, you know, retirement, dude, I'm gonna do this until I can no more. I'm gonna paint until I can. I also DJ a little until I'm in the grave.
I can't believe it. My journey has come to an end. From Germany to the streets of the US, we've visited hip-hop's most influential cities: Los Angeles, Atlanta, and New York City. I've met so many inspiring artists and innovators. People who share my passion. People who have dared to go after their dreams. Although I have been a hip-hop journalist for more than 20 years, this road trip has shown me that there's still so much to discover. The culture consists of 4 elements, but there's an infinite number of ways to celebrate it. Through music, fashion, graffiti, dancing, or whatever you like. And that's why I love hip-hop.
Little nigga see me and he froze up. I was tryna beat a nigga sober. Word my mother, niggas always fold up. That's what happened when you really show love. Try to tell you I was gonna blow up. Stop copying, you don't really know it. But I was really living through some shit. See me, I was only just a day. Started doing this. Niggas be back taking this and this. I just be chillin' smoking on some side. I'ma be big, reaching for the sky. Niggas be dating niggas in disguise. He try to play, I beat him till they cry. I'm a real demon, just look in my eyes. What they gon' do when I'm stepping outside? I just want money, really fuck this shine. I just be living, getting on my grind. If it ain't money, stop calling my line. I'm telling you now, you just wasting your time. I'm telling you now, you just wasting your time. I got locked, I thought it was over. Came home, I hopped in a Rover. Little nigga see me and he froze up. I was trying to beat a nigga sober. Word of my mother, niggas always fold up. That's what happened when you really show love. Try to tell you I was gonna blow up. Stop capping, you don't really know us. Had to change, promise I was about to go insane. Lost my love, almost lost my brain. Then my life was out around the chain. Tired of the struggle and the pain. Like damn, look how far we came. It's 2022, yeah, we let you stop. Promise it won't be the same. I'm ready to stay in our lane. Came home, I hopped in a Rover. Little nigga see me and he froze up. I was trying to beat a nigga sober.